In this video, I am going to show you how to use the ListTile widget of Flutter to create the layout for the individual items of a list. So I am going to start with some existing code. This is a code of a shopping list app. So here you can see the app. We have a list of items here. So these are fetched from the database. These represent the individual items of the shopping list. In this video, as we are going to talk only about the ListTile widget, we are not concerned about the other part of the code. So here we have the list view, and from the item builder function we have to return the widget tree representing the layout of the individual items. And at this moment we are returning a simple text widget, and we are passing the name of the shopping item to the constructor of the text widget. Along with the name we have another piece of information, and that is the quantity of the item. So we are going to display the title, and then we are going to display the quantity, and we are also going to display a checkbox towards the right to check and uncheck the individual items of the list. So a list tile is the easiest way to achieve this type of a layout. So we simply need to return an instance of the widget list tile from this item builder function. Then this has a property called title. To this property title we have to pass a text widget. We are going to pass the text widget, and we are going to pass the name of the item here. Now if you save the changes, you should be able to see the changes immediately here. Now notice that this looks better. And we have another property called subtitle. To this property we are going to pass an instance of text widget, and this time the text to be displayed will be the quantity of the item. So here we have a property called quantity inside this instance document. Save the changes, and now we can see the title and the subtitle. Now there are other properties too, like leading. So there is a property called leading. Using this you can display some widget here, you can display some image here. For the time being I'm simply going to add a container to show you this property. So let's add a container, and let's specify height and width. Let's add 40 as the height as well as the width, and let's specify some color here. Let's make it red. Save the changes. Now this is a leading widget. So this property leading can be used to display something at the start of the tile of the individual items of the list. Now in this case we are not going to use this. Instead of this we are going to use another property called trailing. So leading is to display something at the start, and trailing is to display something at the end. So here we are going to pass an instance of the widget called checkbox. This makes sense, right? Because this is a shopping list app. Now here we are getting an error in the checkbox because we have to provide values for some of the compulsory parameters of this constructor. One of them is a callback function named onChanged, and another named value. So we have to provide an initial value to the checkbox, and we have to provide an implementation of this function onChanged. This widget checkbox does not maintain any state of its own, but whenever the checkbox changes, the value of the checkbox is changed. Whenever the checkbox is tapped, checked or unchecked, then this onChanged callback is called. This gets the new value as an argument, and inside we can write the code to change the variables on which this checkbox depends. So in this case we shall have a variable named purchased or not, done or not, for the corresponding shopping list item. So if purchased is true, then the value of the checkbox will be true, and the checkbox will be checked. If the user taps on it unchecks, then purchased will be false. So here we shall make that change here, right? And the initial value that comes with this document, with the that we have while creating this list tile, will be passed to this parameter value. So whenever the user checks or unchecks any of this checkbox, then we are going to make changes to the corresponding variables, and then we shall rebuild the checkbox. And thus in this case it makes perfect sense to take this list tile out from this place and keep it inside another separate widget, so that whenever something changes here inside this list tile, whenever a user clicks on one particular checkbox, we don't need to rebuild the complete page. We only need to rebuild the individual items in the particular item for which the checkbox has been checked or unchecked, right? So let us create a separate widget. Let's extract this list tile to a separate widget. So to extract this widget, this list tile into a separate widget, simply right click on this widget and click on refactor, and here you will find this option, extract flutter widget. Click on this and then enter the name of the new widget. Let's name it shopping list item and click refactor. Now notice that a new widget has been created with this name, and an instance of the new widget has been returned from this builder item builder function. And as this widget depends on the values of this instance of query document snapshot, an instance is being passed to this widget. Now let us take a look at this widget, and we are going to make some changes here. We are going to convert this to a stateful widget first. So here we have this as a stateless widget. So bring your cursor here and press Alt and enter, and you will find the option to convert this to a stateful widget. So click on it, and then you will notice that this has been converted to a stateful widget. A widget has been created and another class for the state for this widget has been created. Now we are going to pass some value to the property value of this checkbox. And for that, first of all, we are going to create a boolean inside this state class. Let's name it purchased and initialize it to false. And inside this onChanged callback function of the checkbox, we are going to change its value. And the value that we are going to assign will depend on the value that we get through this argument. So if it is true, then we are going to assign true to purchased. If it is false, then we are going to assign false. So basically we are going to assign value to purchased. And we are going to call setState to rebuild the UI. So whenever the value changes, the checkbox is either checked or unchecked. So we are going to change the value of this boolean and we shall rebuild the UI. And then we shall see the changes on the UI. If we don't call setState, then the check mark will not appear or disappear on the UI. So we have to rebuild the UI by calling setState. Now notice this operator here. This is called if null. So this argument value can be null, and if it is null, we don't want to assign null to purchased. Instead we shall assign false, and thus we are using this operator. So it is called if null. So if this is null, then it is going to use the value of this expression towards the right. Now let's save these changes, load the app, and let us try to tap on a checkbox. And here we can see this working. Now this boolean purchase is being initialized to false here, but in a real use case we shall initialize some actual value here. So in our case, in case of a shopping list app, we shall have some value from the document, from this instance of query document snapshot. We may have purchased false or true depending on the previous state of the item, right? So we shall initialize that value here. But for this example, we are going to initialize it to false statically. Now before finishing this video, let us explore a few more properties of this widget list tile. So we have a property called onTap, which is very important because this is a callback function that gets executed when the list tile is clicked. So here we can write the code that we want to execute it when a particular item of the list is clicked. We can load a new page to display some details of the selected property. We can display some snack bar and whatever you want to do, you can do it here inside this function on tab. There is a property called tile color using which you can specify the color of the tile. So you can use this to change the background color of the individual tiles. Then you will find another property called text color using which you will be able to change the color of the text. You will find another interesting property called content padding using which you will be able to add padding for the around the content of the tile. So let's pass an edge insets dot all and pass a value for a padding. Save this and you will notice that a large amount of padding has been added to the content of the tile. Let's remove it again. And another interesting property here is dance. So if you pass true to it, then it will consider this list to be a dense list of items and it will reduce the height of the individual tiles and also the font sizes of the text of the tiles.